Welcome to day 7 of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day. My name is LD Robinson, and I am excited to be with you for what is our fourth year of giving voice to words written by Black people all around the world. And today is day 7, which is Historical Fiction and Nonfiction Day, and we have a great read for you today. Before we get started, I want to invite you to subscribe to our website, which is greatblackreadaloudday.org. Subscribe to our mailing list and don't miss a thing that we're going to be doing all year long. We also want to invite you to follow us online at Black Read Aloud. That is our handle on social media. You can also find us on YouTube, and we want you to subscribe to that. Click that notification bell and make sure that you stay abreast of everything that's happening. We are partners in literacy, and one of our partners is Fresh Book Festival. And we want to invite you to join us this year at Fresh Book Festival 2024. It will be held in Daytona Beach between February 22nd and February 24th. And this month, February, is obviously it's Black History Month here in the United States of America. However, it is a great time to come to Florida because the weather is usually not as cold as other places and is not blazing hot like it is here in, in June and July. So we want to invite you to come down, enjoy some great weather. Hopefully, there's no rain and enjoy the abundance of books and film and authors and editors and all those who will be with us at Fresh Book Festival. We want to let you know that the first night on the 22nd is the film festival, and that is sponsored by the Stan Harrison State Farm Insurance Agency located in New Smyrna Beach and will be held on the campus of Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Days 2 and 3 of the festival will be in Daytona Beach, and that will be held at the Cherry Educational and Cultural Center in Daytona Beach, right in the heart of Daytona Beach. And so we are super excited about that. And we want to invite you to come and enjoy what we have going on at Fresh Book Festival. We want to remind you that literacy is a legacy. That is the slogan and tagline of Fresh Book Festivals. And we believe that here at TIGBRAD. So join us if you can. Get your tickets online at freshbookfestivals.net. Well, we are going to get into our read for tonight. And we have a wonderful read tonight for what is day 7 historical fiction and nonfiction. And our selection for the day is My Name is Ona Judge, an absolutely gripping historical novel by Suzette D. Harrison. And we believe that you will enjoy it. And we're going to do something a little different in our reading tonight. And in that, our reading will be on the screen. You can see our cover. And our reading will be, we're going to break it up in a little few parts. We're going to read from the beginning, a little bit of chapter 1, and then we're going to read a little bit from chapter 3. Okay? Well, we're super excited. So let's get started. I enjoyed this book, so I think you will too. You can probably tell by the smile on my face that I think it'll be a very interesting read for us tonight. Okay, so let's make sure we put this up, and tonight I remembered the authors to put up our author's name because we want to give credit where credit is due because we read for educational purposes here at the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, and so we don't want to offend anyone. Okay. And so here we're going to read from prologue, 1797, age 22, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The sweet aroma of the jasmine scented night was lost on me as terror clouded my senses, rendering me barely able to breathe. I will leave. I will be free. Heart beating like the drum corps that celebrated Mistress when the general was elected, I rushed through the night, palms sweating, fingers trembling. I clung to the shadows, staying close to the buildings while gripping the hood of my cloak. praying it shielded my face, not merely my head. As a servant from a house of prominence, mine was a familiar face, and I could not risk being recognized by anyone I might encounter on those darkened streets. Still, I could not afford to slow my pace and hoped I merely appeared to be a servant dutifully engaged in her owner's bidding. Mother, help me not to fail. Please be with me. I had promised my mother I would accept freedom's hand if it ever was extended. The chance to escape might never come again. I refused to forfeit it. I had to honor my promise and hold on to hope while swiftly, mentally revisiting the hidden clues in Mr. Reyes' elaborate sing song message. I was to board a ship that night and sail to freedom. But was I really to bypass the blacksmith's shed, the agreed upon place, and hurry to Sister Vashti's instead? Not knowing the reason for the change in plans, I pushed turbulent thoughts away. I could only pray I'd rightly interpreted Frank's instructions delivered through Mr. Rayet as I pushed toward Sister Vashti's residence in the far dark distance. The Creator didn't make me to be someone else's possession. I bolstered my courage with that simple truth. Tucking my chin closer to my chest, I hurried towards freedom's dream. No person had a right to own me, my spirit, soul, or body, no matter their position in society. Self important, indifferent persons had erred against my humanity by writing my name in a ledger, same as they did their cattle and sheep. They thought me a commodity to barter and sell, livestock to rule, command, and inventory. But I was invaluably more, and I deserved liberty. That truth propelled me through the moonless night. It steadied me when a cat shot from the shadows and into my path, nearly tripping me. I lurched backwards and covered my mouth, stifling a scream. Rather than disappear in the dark, it arched its back and hissed as if conveying an otherworldly message. A shiver ran through me. Still, I rejected the feline's ominousness and gave it a wide berth. I could not remain in this city of brotherly love and liberty, nor return to Mount Vernon. My right to dignity and freedom wasn't recognized in either place. Heart pounding, I swiftly resumed my uncertain journey, determined to escape fate and live in the balance of my life as a slave. I'd been born into slavery where unquestionable loyalty and devotion were demanded, and resistance was violently suppressed. I'd been destined to endure a heinous system and was relegated to a servile position by virtue of the color of my skin. But that night I preferred to stare death in the face or be dragged through Hades than to return to captivity and life with an evil woman who delighted in my being debased. Being given to her as a wedding gift, like fine china or a knitted blanket, was a mortal wound I could not endure or permit. Hurry, Ona, the ship is waiting. I obeyed my command as an owl hooted overhead. I glanced upward only to stumble in the process. I righted my step and drew my cloak closer about me despite the tepidness of the evening. The air was thick with warmth and perhaps my nerve-wracking tension. Sweat trickled beneath my arms. My head felt somewhat dizzy. Yet I couldn't decrease my pace or abandon the possibility of freedom and fully living. Noticing the slightest change in the temperature, my heart galloped with relief. The air had cooled. The brackishness of the water was pronounced. I'd neared the neighborhood adjacent to the waterfront and my next steps toward destiny. I must find Sister Vashti's house. In the dark, things seemed to see, excuse me, in the dark, things seemed turned about. I needed a moment to calm my racing heart and get my bearings, but time and the sudden clip clop of horses' hooves behind me allowed no such luxury. I couldn't spare even a moment to turn around and face my possible pursuers or determine if my absence had been discovered and mistress had sent the authorities to reclaim me. Knowing the slightest delay might mean a return to captivity, I lifted the hem of my dress and ran, the hood of my cloak streaming behind me. Haste was imperative, For I was the lady's maid once bound to the president's house, and I had dared to flee. I was the one who slipped away unnoticed and was determined to be free, even if it meant I lost my life while trying. Chapter 1, Tessa Scott, current day, Chinneteague, Virginia. It won't take but a minute, baby. I merely want you to see the current state of what you're working with. It was Friday evening. Sheets of rain and the typical influx of weekenders flocking to the island had turned I-13 into an impossibly wet mess of a logjam. I was behind schedule, at risk of being late, and Dominic, who detested tardiness, expected me back on the mainland. The gentle rebuke I'd earned earlier from my mother had me guilt tripping over my regular attendance at family dinners. Even worse, my period was late and my nerves were on edge. Still, I gave Mama Calloway the only response you could give an 84-year-old woman who'd known you all your 29 years and supplied you with abundant love, hugs, homemade cobblers, cakes, cookies, and pies. Yes, ma'am. God, I knew I didn't have time for scoping out an empty, antiquated house in Chinneteague. The house hadn't been lived in years and had seen better days. Yet, it was a gem as far as Mama Calloway was concerned. I should have been northbound, heading in the opposite direction towards Virginia Beach. Instead, I'd left my family's century old Victorian on the banks of Cape Charles to slowly inch my way south to that island famous for its wild ponies. All because I couldn't deny Mama Calloway a thing. I'll be there as soon as traffic lets up. Sounds good to me. I made pecan pralines yesterday. They'll be waiting. At 5'8", I weighed 155, wore a size 10, and considered my weight nicely distributed. My partner, Dominic Daniels IV, didn't wholeheartedly share my opinion and had anointed himself my personal food police. Despite claiming he liked my curves, Dominic constantly treated me to his exercise and fitness sermons as if I were lazy or ignorant. Dude was anal enough to comment if my breath or kiss held a hint of anything sweet or, in his mind, forbidden. As much as I loved Coney Calloway's delights, I was tired and preferred avoiding a possible argument with Dominic. Mama Calloway, my thighs and behind can't afford your confections. Tessa Lorraine, with your Coke bottle physique, you better hush that nonsense. You're beautiful the way God made you. Besides, know what I heard my great grandbaby Jade say the other day? I responded evenly despite the tremor that tickled my skin on hearing Jade's name. No, ma'am, what? Thick thighs save lives. Laughter burst from me with force enough to exacerbate the pressure behind my eyeballs and my mounting headache. Mama Calloway, you're too much. Gingerly, I massaged my temple as she chuckled along. Maybe, but I've never heard my husband complain about nothing God gave me. Some women out here buying hips and lips. She sucked her teeth dismissively. You've never had to swipe your credit card to purchase one curve, to my knowledge. So thank the Creator for what nature kissed you with. Drive safely, and I'll see you and your right side thighs real soon. Responding with another yes, ma'am, I smiled while depressing the end call button on the steering wheel of the Acura MDX I'd gifted myself for my birthday last month, appreciating Mama Calloway's sunshine disposition. She and Dad Calloway had lived in Cape Charles, 5 doors down from us, since before I was born. Theirs was the go-to house when Mama and Daddy were working, and we were too young to be left alone after school. Even when the twins, my big sister Raquel, aka Rocky, and brother Rico, were old enough that our parents were okay with us being home by ourselves, Mama Calloway was the surrogate grandmother who called to check on us and seemingly saw everything. If we dared to act out or shame our upbringing, Mama walked in the front door from work, thanks to Mama Calloway, already knowing. As a kid, I didn't appreciate what I considered snitching. Now, I felt blessed to have grown up in my tight knit African American community, surrounded by people whom I loved and who loved me, including BC. Why the heck am I thinking that? I leaned into my butter soft leather seat, frowning at the randomness of my thoughts. Brandon B.C. Calloway, the grandson of my beloved pecan pralines maker, was my first love and now owned the family's property. 3 years older than me, BC and Rico were best friends. Throughout childhood, he treated me like the annoying pest I must have been. Things changed when we found ourselves in a college prep course in high school together, thanks to my being the baby from a family of overachievers, excuse me. All my life, I've accomplished things at an accelerated pace. According to my parents, I said my first word when I was 6 months old, took my first steps the next month, and was reading before my second birthday. Clearly, I continued those advanced tendencies and wound up being promoted from sixth grade to eighth, and from eighth grade to the 10th when BC was a senior. That's how we simultaneously landed in honors English, and I became more than Rico's snot nosed, smart mouth sister. We had projects together, hung out a little bit. Next thing we knew, we were enmeshed in first love shenanigans. Throughout that year, we were each other's one and only, married with a picket fence kind of dreams, until a bitter breakup during my first year in college resulted in intentional distance, dislike, and painful dissolution. Thinking of BC's nothing more than Mama Calloway's mention in Jade, and my getting closer to Chincoteague. I think I said that correctly. Chincoteague. Jade was BC's daughter by another woman, and Chincoteague was home to that tiny house on the edge of town where BC and I gifted one another our virginity. God, I'm not interested in skipping down memory lane. I readjusted the rearview mirror, telling myself I had zero time or need for bittersweet memories. Truthfully, lately I had little time or space for much of anything besides managing a growing interior design business and maintaining an increasingly complicated situationship with Dominic. Until now, I'd enjoyed my romance with a slightly older man, 36 to my 29, established in his career, and whose world seemingly rotated with divine precision. Dominic Daniels was black bourgeoisie. Yeah, my French teacher would kill me. Bourgeoisie. A highly successful OBGYN anesthesiologist from Old Muddy, pedantic, perfectionistic, driven, outspoken, and laser focused. Dominic knew what he wanted and how to get it, including me. He'd wined me, dined me, sent more over the top floral arrangements and gifts than I could count. Treated me like fine china when parading me as if I were eye candy in front of his white tie, yacht owning Dom Perignon set. Unfortunately, when beyond the company of his peers, his behavior was less effusive or affectionate. Lately, he was even less attentive and showing disturbing signs of selfishness. The shine on our relationship was wearing thin, and I was approaching a place where expensive trinkets, exotic getaways, and extravagances were no longer stimulating or satisfying. Our romance required too much work, and my energy for it was evaporating. Something was off between us, maybe missing, including your period. And then we're going to go over to uh, chapter two. We're going to go to chapter two, and it is spring 1784, and Ona is age 10, and this is Mount Vernon, Virginia. Mother, is it enough? My 10-year-old self stood in nervous anticipation while displaying my handiwork for my mother's expert inspection. She stopped darning the general's hosiery to give the new handkerchief I'd embroidered for Mistress Martha her full attention. She'd assigned me the task to keep me occupied, but I'd finished sooner than expected. Let me see it. She was busy with little time for distractions, but I wanted to prove myself a student worthy of her tutelage. More importantly, I treasured moments in her presence as well as her opinion, so I placed the handkerchief in her capable hands and awaited her assessment. With a slight, tired sigh, she held it to the sunlight flowing through the open window of the workhouse. It was often a busy, bustling cabin, greater in length than width, with rows of tables the plantation's carpenter Isaac had made, at which sat mother's apprentices. They had nimble hands and were highly skilled in learning. They had nimble hands and were highly skilled in or learning their craft. Their job was to attend to the matter of clothing the more than 300 bondspeople belonging to General and Mistress Washington here at Mount Vernon, as well as its 3 farms. But only mother and her most senior seamstress, lame Alice, were permitted to manage any clothing worn by the Washingtons. Watching mother scrutinize my handiwork made me nervous. I shifted from one bare foot to the other and back again while playing with my fingers and humming the tiniest bit. Be still, Ona. Wait with patience. I stilled myself immediately. I was a restless child by nature, my mother's black eyed butterfly, full of energy. But I wanted to prove that I was ready, mature enough to become mother's newest apprentice. I was in my 10th year of life and had performed small chores for as long as I could recall, gathering firewood, collecting eggs, and tending chickens, hauling water to the men and women laboring in the fields, helping Nanny Mole and others caring for the younger children, including my baby sister, Delphi, throughout the day as their mothers engaged in duties about the plantation. I wasn't much younger than some of those mothers and was in line to receive my work assignment as early as next year. Assignments were based on skill, natural inclination, or as dictated by the plantation's needs and its managers. I had no way of knowing what mine would be until it happened, but I prayed it wouldn't be far from mother or out in the fields 6 days a week in whatever weather heaven granted, whether lovely or inclement. Eustace is my best friend, but I don't want to work out there with him. Eustace was only 12, but had worked outdoors these past 2 years because of his strapping physique. Plantation life demanded that even the young use their abilities for its prosperity. But I didn't want to spend 14 hours a day in favorable weather, 7 or more in winter, bent over in back-breaking labor, pulling weeds, harvesting crops, planting seeds, or the countless other physically demanding tasks field work required, or be like my older brother Austin, assigned to multiple tasks in multiple places. I wasn't lazy, but I was afraid of snakes and didn't want to encounter any while working outdoors. Even worse, I was terrified of being taken from my mother like Dito's son was taken from her. Dito and her son belonged to the general, not mistress. Perhaps they had been dour slaves like the other 85 of us under Mistress's keep. Heartbreak would have been avoided, or at least delayed. She'd been in the spinning house weaving when she'd received the news that her 13-year-old son had been snatched from the fields and sold along with 2 other men to settle a debt. That horror happened last year, and Dido hadn't recovered from her decimating loss. Sometimes I could still hear her blood chilling, soul searing screams, or see her viciously struggling against the men physically restraining her as the wagon containing her son rolled away from Mount Vernon. But we're considered dour slaves. Whenever nightmares of Dito's devastation haunted me, I remind myself that my mother came to this plantation as the inheritance of Mistress Martha, and that we belonged to her, not General George Washington. A widow when Master Washington met her, Martha Dandridge Custis had been the wife of Daniel Parke Custis. When Mr. Custis died, Mistress was granted lifetime use of 1/3 of the human chattel held by his estate, now considered dour slaves. Excuse me, y'all. Mm. Sometimes it doesn't matter how many times you read things. Um, the weight of it is still heavy. My law.
Mm. Dower slaves and their offspring could be neither sold nor freed, but were held in trust for her two surviving children, Mistress Patsy and Master Jackie. Mistress Patsy and Master Jackie had lived longer than their brother and sister, Daniel and Francis, who died at the age of 2 and 3, respectively. That luck lasted only so long, and Mistress Patsy died 11 years ago when barely 17. As for Master Jackie, he met his untimely demise 3 years back, leaving their mother childless and his wife and children without him. Now we, the dour enslaved, were held in trust as an inheritance from Master Jackie's four offspring. For as long as I could recall, each new year began with an audit of the estate's holdings. We, the chattel property, were made to line up and give our names, which were, subsequently, compared to what was listed in a register that also accounted for livestock and household novelties. I detested having the same classification as a herd of sheep, silver utensils, or heirloom jewelry. But I took consolation in knowing I couldn't be snatched, tossed on a wagon, and taken away. At least, not yet. Not until Mistress Martha's grandchildren were of age to claim their inheritance. That didn't make the terror of witnessing General Washington's slaves being bartered or sold any less real. May heaven grant that I wind up with Nellie, not evilest Eliza, eventually. Ugly notions of living out my latter life with that ill tempered she thing had me fidgeting again. Ona, mother softly speaking my name was enough to cease my agitation. When she beckoned me forward, I immediately closed the distance between us and leaned against her with nervous expectation. Remove these stitches here and here. Make them tighter and neater the way I taught you. Yes, ma'am. I plopped onto the hard packed dirt floor near her bare feet, accepting the handkerchief and the tools of her trade that she handed me. With eager zeal, I set to the task of carefully releasing silky threads and restitching them, determined they'd be perfect when finished. I can do this. I wasn't merely eager for mother's approval, but for the possibility of remaining in the workhouse with her and the others. If I was to be assigned duties 6 days a week from can see to can't, I wanted it to be here in the presence of women who made me feel safe and with whom I shared a skill, a trade. I wanted to be included in their circle, their stories and gossip, and not just treated as a little girl like Delphi and sent elsewhere because I was in the way or too energetic. I had to create beautiful things to prove my suitability and gave my best to repairing the embroidery on that handkerchief in hopes of impressing not just mother, a former housemaid whose sewing skills eventually moved her into this position, but mistress. I was nearly finished when the quiet, sparkling sound of mother's laughter interrupted and pulled my attention from my task. I looked up and couldn't help mirroring her smile. What's funny, mother? You bite your lower lip when concentrating, same as I do. You can continue. It might have been a small comparison, yet it made me feel giddy, and I resumed my work with vigor. Our selection today has been from Ona. My name is Ona Judge, an absolutely gripping historical novel by Suzette D. Harrison. And it is a wonderful read. It goes back and forth between present day and between modern times and historical times. And so it's a nice juxtaposition um, of lives in the story. And so I'm going to put our cover back up. And our selection for today again is My Name is Ona Judge, an absolutely gripping historical novel by Suzette D. Harrison. And um, it is a great read. Um, we want to remind you that we are reading all month long, all 29 days. And if you like to, we'd like to invite you to read along with us.
And if you do, announce the title of the literature, identify the author, identify yourself. Don't forget to do that, like I do sometimes. Read for at least 5 to 7 minutes. Don't forget to tag your video with the International Great Black Read Aloud Day and TIG Brad, and let your family and friends know. Also, we want to invite you and let you know that we are reading 29 days, as I said before. We're reading all month long, something different every day. We got plenty of books to do it with. Some we read from hard copy, some we read from our e-readers, but we are reading. And so we want to invite you along for the journey, the reading journey. And here's our list. We've made it through day 7, and tomorrow is art. And so a little unique take on art. And I think I've decided this because of the nature of it, because of the writer. So we we are going to a little bit of a twist, and so my reasoning is going to be my reasoning. So we look forward to having you join us tomorrow for day 8, which is Art Day. And I think most of you will agree with me tomorrow that my selection is fully appropriate for Art Day. Um, Again, we are so excited to be with you reading here at the International Great Black Read Aloud Day 2024 edition. We are here giving voice to words written by Black people all around the world, and we don't take it for granted that you join us in listening and that you share our reads with others. And we appreciate it. Everyone around the world who tunes in and listens in, we really do appreciate it. So, our author from today, because we're making an effort to show where our authors are from, our author for today is from the United States of America. And we'll be back tomorrow with another read. And we look forward to joining you tomorrow here at the International Great Black Read Aloud Day 2024. This has been day 7, which has been Historical Fiction and Nonfiction Day. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye bye.